Happy New Year to all of you. I just got off a webinar with the board of JCI, which is an organization many of you may be aware of. And I was talking to them, and they were so curious how BNI did what it did in 2020. And my answer was BNI's core values. The core values of the organization enabled you to achieve so much in 2020. It's remarkable. And, you know, globally, BNI members helped each other close on over $16.2 billion in closed business in a year like 2020. Who would have thought? I'll tell you, I didn't know none of us knew what was going to happen in the first quarter of 2020. But those core values really opened us up to an opportunity to collaborate like never before. And I know all of you played a key role in that. So first and foremost, I want to say Happy New Year. And I also want to say congratulations to each and every one of you for your support of other BNI members in 2020. It really is a remarkable thing. And we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But those core values are what enabled all that to happen. And especially traditions plus innovation. And of course, it all starts with Givers Gain. What we saw across the world of BNI in 2020 was incredible. What we continue to see today, what we will see in the future, people are giving of themselves, not just referrals and closed business, of course, so much more than that. And it's so important. So community is really important. Being networked as a business leader is really important. And that's what all of you are doing and providing to each other. So congratulations on a great 2020. Happy New Year. Let's make 2021 your best year yet. And so, you know, when I think about 2021 and what's going to be really important, I think an ongoing focus on resilience is going to be key. And so how do we get to resilience? What's really the way to get there? Well, first off, wellness. We are all leaders. We are all business leaders, entrepreneurs. We have people that depend on us. That means we need to be at our best. We can't let ourselves get worn down to the point where we're not as effective. And I know that's easier said than done. Believe me, I understand that. But I think 2021 is going to be a time where it's going to be continue to be very important to focus on our wellness collectively as leaders so we can support those around us. I think continuing to focus on agility is going to be important. So what does that mean? That means strategically embedding flexibility in the way that we're supporting each other, the way that we're supporting clients and customers, so that we can do the best of what we can to support them, even in the midst of restrictions. And let me say at the outset, I know very much because we're undergoing a similar situation. I know that the situation in your regions is significant. And so I hope above all else that you are doing well and healthy, and I hope your family is well and healthy, and I hope your friends are well and healthy. I know that this is a significant situation. And at the same time, I know that BNI has been, with your leadership, so important to so many people in so many new ways this year. And I know it's been important to me. So I want to thank you for allowing me to support all of you and to support great leaders like Liam and Mike and Louise, who are working day and night to support each of you. So resilience is going to be key, and focusing on our individual wellness is going to be important, and agility. Lifelong learning is going to be important. The trends right now, things are changing so quickly that if we don't allocate a certain percentage of our time as leaders, all of us, we could miss out on an important trend that could be pretty important to our respective businesses. And so lifelong learning is key. And then emphasizing more than ever the why behind what you do. And, you know, we're seeing it around the world. I think that was already underway. I think the disruption that started in early 2020 and continues now is emphasizing that it's almost more important to start with your why in terms of communicating with your clients and customers than it is to start with your what. So starting with your why, then saying, oh yeah, this is the product or service that I provide. I think that approach is more important than ever. So for those of you, some of you may have seen the predictions, you know, that I made for 2020. We did a business booster on that. I always like to caveat that by saying less than 50% of those are going to be correct. So luckily we're only 12 days into 2021. So most of them are still correct, but we'll see over time. I think it's going to be a very dynamic year. And, you know, one of the things that I continue to to think will be the case, and I think we're experiencing it right now, is that, the resolution to the current disruption is not going to be like a car race, coming across the finish line. It's not going to be done in an instant. It's going to take time, which means, again, that resilience is key. I think that we're going to go to a new normal. I think that's key. I think that's become like overly cliched at this point, but it's really important to think about, for your own business and how you can impact those around you. There will be things that were the case before the pandemic, and then there's going to be this whole new normal that blends what's been the case over the last year and then rapidly what's becoming the case. So kind of aiming your business and your efforts towards that new normal, I think is critically important. So there's so much that we could talk about. I do think being networked is more important than ever. And what do I mean by that? I have been there. I can assure you I've been in the startup, not being able to make payroll. And that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about BNI. I wish I knew about BNI back then. I didn't. I wish I did. Because I tried to solve, like all of us, most of us here, most of you are type A, whether you want to admit it or not, and you like to influence the outcomes. And so when I was having challenges at that point, oftentimes I would go into like a room and shut the door and try to figure it out myself. I learned over time that that's not the best way to overcome challenges and really think about opportunities. It's to be networked amongst peers that care about you and that will also provide you with ideas and some advice to help navigate. So it's more important than ever this year to be networked. That's not a sales pitch. I just know that from my personal experience that that's reality. So I hope that all of you continue to do one-to-ones, continue to spend time on lifelong learning. All the things that we encourage, I think, are going to be very important this year as well. I would also say that there has never been more opportunity than there is right now. And I know that there's a strange juxtaposition. It's almost hard to bring these two thoughts together. And believe me, it can be challenging, but it is the case. There is more opportunity right now for small and medium businesses globally than ever before. And let me explain why that's the case. For one thing, pre-pandemic and kind of going back a few years, the idea that you could serve clients and customers in other regions, in other countries, that was really the purview of larger companies, right? They had the infrastructure, they had the ability to do that. The ability to serve additional markets now is absolutely available to nearly every small and medium business. Now, when I say nearly, I do understand that there are some categories of businesses that it's hard for that to be the case. For example, restaurants. And, with those members in particular, I always ask that let's put our particular focus on those members to try to help them as much as possible. But for most businesses, the world is really an opportunity for them like never before. That's one reason. Many of you probably heard about the K-shaped recovery. That's become a little bit of a cliche. What is the K-shaped recovery? Well, the businesses, the industries, and the organizations that really come at this disruption with a mindset of opportunity and what's possible are already springboarding in terms of growth. We do a lot of surveying. Some of you have probably received some of our surveys. We appreciate you filling this out. What we found is that about a little over a third of BNI businesses in a recent survey, 2020 was an outstanding year, was a great year, in some cases their best year yet. For a little bit less than a third, it was, a little bit more than a third also, it was neutral. So it wasn't great, it wasn't terrible. And then, the balance, which was a little bit less than a third, it was not a great year. Some of the people that responded neutral, they might have also responded not great. And so, but for some businesses, it was their best year ever. And I think in some cases it was the model and kind of luck. They were in the right place at the right time. A lot of them had the right mindset going in. And if I could pass along one thing that was so helpful to me personally in 2020, and that's why I want to pass along to all of you, it was nothing that I came up with. It was something that I learned from another CEO. So at the outset of this pandemic, I got on the phone, I called every CEO I know, And I said, listen, here's what we're seeing. What are you seeing? What are you thinking about? Here's what we're thinking about, because I wanted to make sure we're doing our absolute best to support BNI members around the world. And in one of those conversations, I think it was late January, a CEO mentioned, we're thinking about what we can do now that we could never do before. And it was such a simple thought. And I said, that's brilliant. I said, what you can do now that you could never do before. I said, that's brilliant. So I must have repeated that question. I mean, you probably heard it 100 times. I repeated that question as much as I could in 2020. What can you do now that you couldn't do before? And within that, there's so much possibility and opportunity. And that's absolutely the case for 2021, maybe even more than 2020. So I would encourage all of you to continue to ask that question, challenge your teams to ask that question personally, professionally. What could you do now that you couldn't do before? We mentioned before, small and medium businesses now can access, a global market. For many of you, you're not sitting in traffic as much as you were. Could you put that time towards more, productive uses? What are some of the tools that are available that weren't available before? So there's a long list of things that you could talk about that are available from a business perspective. What are some of the things personally that you could do now that you couldn't do before? You can read more, probably, get in great shape, spend more time outdoors, spend more time with family. Most of the time, that's a good thing. But as I joked and I showed on one webinar, there was a dad in California, who this graphic went viral. And anyway, he had a preset answers for when his kids knocked on the door and he was trying to get some work done. And it included, if it's not bleeding, it's fine. So I think some of us have experienced that when we're trying to balance school from home and work from home. But the reality is on both the professional side and the personal side, when you ask that question, what can you do now that you couldn't do before? There's just a lot of opportunity. I can tell you that the global support team of BNI, we used to operate, will operate again soon, we hope, across 10 offices, around the world. There's a team that's working day and night to develop technology, training, tools to help members achieve more than they ever thought possible. That's what we're here to do. We have a talented team, I dare say, and that's because we spend a lot of time recruiting. And the reason we do that is because the only thing that we have to give our members, and that's why we exist, the only thing that we have to give our members is our time and our talent. So we have to get the best talent available from anywhere in the world and help them understand what we're here to do, and then let's get to work. So they work day and night. They're very excited to support you and support leaders like Liam and Mike and Louise, who I know are working really hard to support all of you. So when we think about 2021 kind of globally, what I think you'll see happen, what I'm confident you'll see happen, is us take all the learnings from 2020 and really focus those and apply those to an even bigger effect in 2021. And some of the things that we saw that were really impactful, and I hope that all of you can take this away for your own businesses. I think they're applicable no matter what business you're in, no matter how big or small the business is, no matter if you started yesterday or started a decade ago. Number one, remember your why. Remember why you do what you do. And I assume that, all of you are in your businesses because you need to create, some income to support yourself and your family. That's great. I am sure that there's another reason also, because you really love the product or service that you deliver. You love working with clients. You love making clients successful and happy. Remember that why. That will provide you all the power and energy that you need for 21 and many decades thereafter. So remember that why, keep focused on that why, and it will power you right through these challenging times. Set a simple goal for yourself in 21, a simple goal. So, each year, my family, we sit down, right on New Year's Eve, and we do our New Year's resolutions. And I think it's good for our kids to get in that habit. And we really talk to them about SMART goals, specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-bound. And so set simple, SMART goals, and maybe 2 or 3, not more than that. And then, check in daily. What we used to think about, we used to have routines that were monthly. We do those daily now. We do those daily. When we first mentioned that, our team thought we were crazy. But I'll tell you that higher tempo enabled us to navigate some of the ins and outs of a very turbulent 2020. I think daily recognition also, that's a routine that can't be overstated. And let me just tell you, you all are doing, I think, the work of heroes. That's my perspective. I think we can talk about frontline workers. absolutely as heroes. We can talk about lots of different heroes in the world. I think entrepreneurs and business leaders are heroes. I think that when business is done with a purpose, it is noble. And I know that sometimes business gets, a bad coverage in the press in the last decade, and maybe in some cases deservedly so. But that's a fraction of the business community and the entrepreneurial community. What business leaders are doing, what all of you are doing, you're creating opportunity, you're creating jobs, and I can tell you, and I don't want to take too much time to outline it, but basically when I grew up, my father was in the military, and when he came out of the military, he was unemployed for 5 years. And we never starved, so I don't mean to say that, but there was a lot of times where we didn't have enough money to fill up the gas tank, so we'd fill it up $4 or $5. When for a decent chunk of my childhood, our plumbing didn't work in our house, so when we took a shower, we had to take buckets and pour it out the window because the septic field was shot. We couldn't use it, and it was more money than we had to fix it. I didn't care, and to be honest, I thought that was terrific. As a kid, it was the best thing that I could learn. Therefore, everything after that I appreciate. However, I saw the stress that it really put on my parents and the problems that it caused, and they felt so much guilt for not being able to do one thing or another. It was really intense. And I always say, and I say this to my kids now, when someone's in financial distress, they go to bed with it and they wake up with it, and they go to bed with it and they wake up with it. It's always there. It's always there. Whether it's, too much debt on the credit cards, can't make payroll, whatever it is, it's always there. And so when I look at all of you, I see you as a force for good that is fixing that situation. And I know right now is an exceptionally challenging time, but I can assure you that all of us on the global support team, all of the leaders here on the webinar today are committed to helping you navigate that and emerge on the other side stronger, no matter what happens between now and there. And we know, believe me, I talk to members around the world all the time, and I know that a lot of businesses have had to close. Great, let's get folks back in the game. Maybe there's a different passion they have. Let's help get them referrals for a new business that they're starting. Whatever their passion is, let's get them into that and get them as successful as possible. So there's a lot of things we can provide to people and communities. Good jobs are a really important thing. So again, I would say that all of you are heroes. I'll mention a few other things, and we'll open up to some questions. The technology team is working around the clock. I just approved 14 new hires. So let me just put that in perspective. When I joined in 2014, there was a wonderful team in place in one office. BNI, the global support team, had one office, and it was about 2 hours east of California. Some of you may have been there. How many of you visited that office? Some of you probably visited in Upward. Yep, in Upland, Upland. Yeah. Okay, so Mike was there, maybe some others. Yeah, so very passionate team working there. We did not have any technology people. We had none. So we were completely reliant on outside vendors. Today, we have a significant technology team. And again, I just approved 14 more hires. So I don't know, I can't remember offhand exactly how many that's going to be. It feels to me like we're going to have, close soon, we'll have probably plus or minus 50 that are in-house working on technology, whether it's the mobile app, BNI Connect, BNI Business Builder, you name it. Part of the goal this year is to simplify and streamline those systems. So we're constantly in this challenge of, do we enhance the systems we have, or do we unify them? And but we are mobile first. That's really important. We'll talk in a few minutes about BNI Online and then BNI in person, and we'll talk more about that. But technology is a big deal. We hope you're taking advantage of BNI Business Builder. What we've seen skyrocket this year, this was happening before the pandemic, but since the pandemic started, the interest in BNI members collaborating with other BNI members around their country and around the world has gone through the roof. We see that on BNI Business Builder. So we hope that you have, a lot of fun with that and find new avenues to grow through BNI Business Builder. And that's going to keep getting enhanced. One thing that we'll be continuing, until it's safe to do it otherwise, online events. And, I didn't know how it was going to go when we did the global convention. How many of you were at the global convention? Hopefully some of you. So we learned a lot from that. And I think going forward, all major events, not just for BNI, but for organizations of all kinds, are going to be hybrid. They're going to be, in person to some extent and online to some extent. That's going to continue. The good news is, and we're trying to exemplify that our goal is to drive the content up and up and up and up. And really seeing the whole global organization on at the same time, like during opening ceremonies, that was neat. And the reason I'm mentioning that, we want all of you to continue building that tight relationship with other members in your chapter. That's essential. And so that's the most important thing. We also want you to know that there is a world of BNI members out there. And when it comes to global collaboration, working together, that has always been the case. All we're trying to do now is add the technology to make it easy. And I know that we've just taken the first steps and we have a long way to go. But the interest of other BNI members around the world to work with you and collaborate with you is there and always has been there. So please make sure you're thinking about that. We love to see businesses who, thought they were a local business, then they become a regional, then they become a national, then they become a global business. And along the way, they become BNI busy, which is kind of a stressed look because they're trying to hire people to take care of this new, set of clients that they have, and they're excited. So that's the kind of BNI busy that we want for all of you that are interested in making your businesses more regional, national, or global. Just want to, again, say how much of an honor it is to be here, and I want to take some questions. I do, just my personal, and you can be sure that we're watching all kinds of data, around the world on the current disruption, how we support members, all this kind of stuff. We're very, very focused on it. My personal sense is that there's a lot of room for optimism in 21. I think things are going to get better and they will accelerate in that direction. Our key from day one, our number one focus, hands down, above all else, is we want to do everything we can to keep everybody safe, and we want to help their business. But from our perspective, it starts with safety. And so that's been our number one focus. I do expect, again, that we're going to see an acceleration in the resolution of this situation. I know that, there's a lot of, there's some question marks out there. We study these things carefully, and I can't be sure, but my sense is that, the current efforts are going to be really effective. And, I think there'll be a huge surge. How many of you have a list of things that you're waiting to do when this is done? Travel, Starbucks, dinner, movie theater. Oh my goodness, everybody does. So here's the key. You just making it through to the other side. And at that point, I mean this personally, but also for your businesses, I think there's going to be a global surge in demand, and there's a lot of pent up demand. And a lot of that's going to flow to small and medium-sized businesses. Look, I love Amazon and Walmart and Target. They've been supplying most of the world during this, lockdown period. And I think by and large, I think they've done an excellent job. So I am very grateful for that being an option. But sorry about the Starbucks. But what I will say is that I think small and medium businesses in particular are going to experience an upsurge in demand like we haven't seen in a generation, because there's going to be a lot of novelty, a lot of interest in working with small and medium businesses across a range of things. So I think that's going to be very helpful to all of you. So again, the key is continued collaboration together in chapters and regions, in countries around the world. Let's help all of us, make it to the other side safely. We'll be there soon, I hope. And then there'll be this big surge, and we want to help all of you benefit from that and be more successful than you ever thought possible. I'll say one more thing before taking questions. One of my mentors at an early age, it was my professor from college. I ended up hiring him for a company that I was building. And he was from India, and he loved chai. And I didn't even know what chai was at the point at which I hired him. I love chai now. And we used to sit there and have chai and talk. And I used to really ask him, what he wanted to do, what impact he wanted to have on the world. And he said, you know what? I'll never forget it. And it always stuck with me. He said, I want to make $1 billion, and I want to give it all away. So whatever your purpose is, and they're not mutually exclusive, creating a lifestyle that you want, creating resources for your family, donating to charity, they all work together. Whatever your why is, I thought that was a great why. Whatever your why is, we want to help you achieve that and so much more. We want to help you have fun along the way. That's why we intentionally try to keep things pretty light. Every time I say that, I'm wearing a suit, so I got to fix that. But we want to keep the fun and the fundamentals, and also help all of you be as successful as possible. So I really want to thank you guys for having me, here today. And I'd love to take any questions that I can help with. I think there were some that some folks submitted. So Liam, I'll defer to you.
Thank you very much, Graham. Louise, I'm actually going to defer over to Louise, who's our question master. Louise.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Graham. That was great. Thank you. I've got a few questions here for you that people have submitted. So I'm going to start with some reasonably easy ones. This is something that Jan has asked. And it was something I'm quite interested as well, because a lot of the question is about what's our realistic timescale for expecting the app, Connect, and business and BNI Business Builder all being merged into one, so that we don't have the multiple password issue. Yeah,
listen, I appreciate that. It's what I mentioned sometimes. I think it's probably relevant. I'm the least patient person in the organization, so with these things, I want them yesterday. If not sooner. My technology team helps temper my impatience a little bit sometimes. The reality is we want to get to a unified platform, and I don't think we're far off. I don't want to peg a specific date. We will be coming out with a publication for BNI leaders, which outlines, the timelines. And so Louise, Mike, and Liam will share, I think, in that what the BNI portal kind of timeline looks like. So I don't think it's far off. It's on deck for 21, and as long as things stay relatively constant, I think we can have that later this year.
Brilliant, thank you. Question that this is a question that I've got mainly from a sort of a personal struggle to get members engaged with the business booster sessions. So I try and describe it as sort of professional and personal development. What would you say to members to encourage them to make the use of these sessions, these additional workshops that you've been providing?
Sure. Well, we saw a definite increase in demand for quality content in the first quarter of last year. People during this kind of time, they were taking some time to sharpen their saw and their leadership skills. So we developed the BNI Business Booster Series to address that. We've seen a lot of participation. I would say right now, call that through the end of 21, all of us should take 20% of our week to focus on lifelong learning. And I know that sounds like a lot because you got 20% for 10 other things. But if you can take 20% to focus on lifelong learning, I think that is a good ratio for us all to think about. The Business Booster Series is keynote quality speakers that we bring at no charge to help BNI members and the general business community continue to sharpen their leadership development. So I hope they've been helpful. They are on BNI Business Builder for, you can look through those and access those. And they're really relevant. We shoot for a very relevant topic. Most of them are around business leadership. A lot of them, some of them are around how do you manage yourself so that you can, support those around you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. 'Cause getting people engaged, and we understand the value, trying to get other people to do to get them on it as well. So I've got a few others, a few more challenging ones. So this one is from Prue. With VCP, visibility is the easiest to accomplish. Credibility is a little bit harder, and profitability the hardest. It's even harder now online, and sometimes with people we've not yet met face to face. So what advice would you give to help create a good visibility and credibility so that they can start increasing that that turnaround and turning it into profit?
Sure. Well, I think building relationships virtually is more possible than ever. I think when we first started this, all of our feeling was, we're not sure how effective this is going to be. What we found is this is really effective. I was in Monaco an hour ago. Now I'm with all of you. Earlier this morning, I was in another country. So we couldn't have done that before. Now we can do that. So whether it's locally or, globally, I think frequency matters. So I think, not expecting a relationship to be, concrete after the first interaction. So I think some frequency matters. I think all the things that we do before the pandemic, all the things that BNI members do in terms of really caring about each other, really caring about customers, demonstrating that. I think all those things are the case here. So I would look at, and I'm not saying this from a cliched perspective, but just that this is how we really feel. I think there is actually more of an opportunity to create strong relationships now. And, we're on a screen, but it almost doesn't feel like that. I mean, it almost feels like we're in person, not completely, but pretty close. And I would just try to bring the things that have always worked and apply them now, and I think you'll find success.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So I've got here from Matt, what opportunities do you see for BNI now it's proved it can work online as well as physical meetings?
Sure. So, what we've seen, which has been, again, I wouldn't have predicted this. And so let me just tell you, we would not have predicted this, but it's been a great outcome. So what we've seen with the online, with BNI Online is more younger business people, more women, more business leaders and entrepreneurs participating from rural areas than ever before. Those are things that we were trying to figure out before 2020. And who would have thought that, this disruption would have come and, forced us to figure it out very quickly. I always tell a funny story. It's a reality. We hired or engaged, there were some interns from a graduate school, Wake Forest University, which is in North Carolina, near our headquarters. And they wanted to do a project on BNI because they found it really interesting. And we said, sure. And they're really smart. They were graduate students and they had some experience in the business world. So they took 4 months, they worked with their professor. And in January of 2020, they came back with their presentation. They presented it to the leadership team and they said, they had some really good presentations, ideas. The biggest one was, you should really try an online membership. Who would have thought? We took them up on that in a big way. So I would just say, our goal is to support business leaders and entrepreneurs to be more successful than I ever thought possible. And we want to do that in person for folks that want to do that in person. We want to do it online for folks that want to meet online. We want to be more accessible. And I think that has become the case.
Okay, thank you. Have you got time for more? Yep.
Yeah.
So this one's from Scott. He says, are there any plans to adjust or reduce the cost of memberships whilst we're online, where the cost is the same, but we're not essentially using the same product? What would you say for that?
No, I would say the product is getting better and better. And the product is the composite of all the things that go into helping members create revenue and close business. But then also it's the personal and professional development and obviously the relationships. And I just, what I'd say just on one of those fronts, again, $16.2 billion in closed business in 2020. And that includes that period at the end of Q1 and early Q2 where nearly the whole world was on lockdown. So, if we normalized around that, we would be way over the closed business that was done in 2019. So and over 11.5 million referrals. And if anything, that economic activity is understated because those referrals are going to generate additional closed business for months and years to come. So I just mentioned that to say that that we're working hard, we're investing millions and millions of dollars. We can't do that if we don't have the resources. But on the other side, we're seeing members get more and more value and more closed business, and we're excited to see that. So we're investing more than ever in the future. Brilliant,
thank you. So obviously we've seen that online meeting works. So what's the next step? What's the plan for the future? Hybrid chapters, and once the pandemic is through, will we see Zoom still being utilized and things for training and so on? Is it now an integral part, do you think?
Yeah, BNI Online will be a permanent part of how BNI supports entrepreneurs and business leaders, even when we restart in-person meetings. And to be sure, we have restarted in-person meetings in some countries and some regions. So, this is a global dynamic situation. But what we've seen, we've actually been reaching out. You may have seen some of these surveys recently. We've been asking members, how many of you want to essentially stay online once going back to in person is doable. And we've been surprised about how many would like to stay online. Now, there's a lot, of course, that want to go back in person. We want to support both. The folks that have responded that they want to remain online still want some in-person element, and so that will be part of the design. You can think about that, right now in a draft concept as a monthly meetup that focuses on recognition, referrals, and reiterating in short form, some key training and like a fun event. So that is likely to be the product with the online membership. Every week would be online meetings, so there's consistency. But once a month, there would be a strongly encouraged fun meetup for that in-person element. On the in-person side, absolutely excited about that too. We want to do a range of things that we want to do to strengthen the productivity in the in-person chapters when they restart. So we're excited about both.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I mean, I'm loving the online meetings personally. Some of our chapters are doing the pilot, and the new agenda is going down very, very well, very positive at the moment. So this, I'm not 100% sure if you'll be able to answer this one now, but definitely come back with us if not. This one's from Claire, and this is a more broader question. But how is BNI supporting, which I want to think, the world's 2030 sustainable development goals and encouraging businesses to do their part? Are you aware of that? So yeah,
listen, great question. I think we're very much aligned with those goals. I think in reality, I think BNI's DNA has always been about successful, sustainable development. I think that's just always been kind of the way that the organization's looked at the world for 36 years now. I got to say 36. And as we look at other organizations, for example, JCI, they're aligned with it. So I think, our kind of center point, we want to be thoughtful business leaders that have a positive impact, on our clients, our customers, our teammates, and the world around us. We want to create, that positive impact. So I think we're aligned with that. I can't say that we have a slate of initiatives this year focused specifically on that. I can say that some of the innovation that's happened over the last year certainly has pushed us rapidly towards that. So I'd say we're going to be, have always been, will always be a thoughtful global corporate organization.
Brilliant, thank you. That's really the majority of the questions I've got, because the other ones I've got you really sort of answered within your presentation. So for me, it's really what final little piece of advice, if we could take anything away from what you've presented today, what one thing do you absolutely want people to go away with? I'm gonna say two things, if that's all right. One, make sure that all of you are taking care of yourselves. I understand as entrepreneurs and business leaders, there are a lot of people that depend on you. You may feel a lot of pressure. Share that with your fellow members in your chapter. Keep engaged. Focus on your wellness, overall wellness, your fitness, everything, because that's really important. That's really important. We want all of you to be successful for many, many decades to come. And so I think taking care of ourselves as leaders is really important. Number two, keep focused on that question that I mentioned that I got from another CEO. What can you do now that you could not do before? Keep focused on that. Keep your teams focused on that. You'll find tremendous opportunity. And just know that BNI as a global organization is here to support you now and for all time going forward. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much. Over to you, Liam.
Thank you. Thanks, Louise, for fielding them questions. Brilliant job. Brilliant job. Graham, thank you so much for fielding them questions. Thank you so much for your presentation. Please, can I just ask our members to unmute themselves and give Graham a really old-fashioned British round of applause, please, for being so brilliant at what he does. And you know what, for inspiring us for the year. Graham, thank you very, very much. We really appreciate it. Genuinely do. Have the best day. I know it's still morning where you are. Have the best day, and we look forward to seeing